You know that friend who always cancels plans? The one who texts, maybe next time? I'm kind of tired tonight. I think I'll just stay in. At some point, you probably thought the same thing everyone else does. They're boring. They hate going out. They're antisocial. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? What if the friend who always cancels plans isn't antisocial, but actually understands their own mind better than most people? Because psychology suggests something surprising. For some people, staying home isn't laziness, and it isn't fear. It's something much deeper. It's how their brain protects its energy. And if you're someone who secretly feels happier on a quiet night at home, you might be wired very differently from the world around you. In today's world, being busy is often treated like a badge of honor. The more social events you attend, the more interesting your life is supposed to look. People post pictures of crowded restaurants, parties, vacations, and endless activities as proof that they are living their best life. And slowly, a quiet assumption forms in our culture. If you're not constantly out doing something, something must be wrong with you. That's where the misunderstanding begins. Because when someone prefers staying home, society often jumps to a simple explanation. They must be lazy, or shy, or antisocial. Maybe they just don't like people. But psychology suggests a very different story. The truth is, not everyone experiences stimulation in the same way. For some people, crowded environments feel exciting and energizing. For others, the exact same environment can feel overwhelming and mentally exhausting. So the real difference isn't motivation, it's how their brain processes energy. And once you understand that difference, the idea of boring homebodies starts to look a lot less accurate and a lot more misunderstood. One of the most important psychological differences between people is how they recharge their energy. Extroverts tend to gain energy from social interaction. Being around people, talking, laughing, and experiencing activity stimulates their brain. The more interaction they have, the more energized they often feel. Introverts work very differently. For them, stimulation consumes energy instead of creating it. Conversations, crowded environments, constant noise, and social expectations slowly drain their mental battery, even when those experiences are enjoyable. This is why an introvert can have a great time at a party and still feel completely exhausted afterward. Psychologists often describe this using the idea of a social battery. Everyone has one, but introverts tend to have a battery that drains faster during interaction. And just like a phone that's running low on power, eventually it needs to be plugged in somewhere quiet. For many introverts, home becomes that charger. It's the place where the brain finally stops processing conversations, expectations, and external stimulation. Think about what often happens after a long social event. Some people go home and immediately want to call friends or keep the night going. Others go home, sit quietly for a while, maybe watch something familiar, read, or simply enjoy silence. Sometimes they even need hours or a full day alone before their energy fully resets. That recovery time isn't antisocial behavior. It's simply how their nervous system restores balance. But introversion alone still doesn't fully explain why some people genuinely love staying home. Psychologists often explain this difference using something called optimal arousal theory. The idea is simple. Every human brain has a level of stimulation where it functions best. When stimulation rises above that level, the brain begins to feel stress. When it drops too low, the brain feels bored. So each person naturally tries to stay within a range where their mind feels balanced and comfortable. But that range is not the same for everyone. Some people thrive in high stimulation environments. Crowds, music, movement, and constant conversation energize them. Their brains actually perform better when there is activity around them. Others experience the exact same environment very differently. Loud spaces, unpredictable conversations, bright lights, and constant social signals can overwhelm their nervous system much faster. Their brain reaches its stimulation limit quickly. That's where home becomes important. At home, stimulation can be adjusted. The lighting is softer, the noise is lower, and the pace of life slows down. Instead of constant input, the brain finally has room to settle. Think about the difference between spending 3 hours in a loud bar versus spending the evening at home with a book, a film, or quiet music. For some people, the bar is exciting. For others, it feels exhausting. So people who love staying home are often not avoiding life. They're simply protecting their nervous system from overload. Another powerful psychological reason some people love staying home is the sense of control it provides. The outside world is unpredictable. When you step outside your door, you enter an environment filled with variables you can't fully manage. Loud conversations, sudden changes of plans, crowded spaces, constant notifications, and endless small social expectations. Even simple interactions, like small talk with strangers or navigating busy public places, require mental energy. Your brain is constantly processing signals. But home is different. At home, you control the environment, you choose the lighting, you control the sound level, you decide the pace of your evening, you determine when interaction happens and when it stops. This sense of control might seem small, but psychologically it can make a huge difference. Control reduces anxiety. When the brain knows it can regulate its surroundings, the nervous system relaxes. The mind stops scanning for unexpected disruptions, and mental fatigue slowly fades. In modern life, this becomes even more important. Our daily environments constantly bombard us with stimulation: phones vibrating, traffic noise, crowded spaces, bright screens, endless conversations. The brain rarely gets a chance to fully power down. For people with more sensitive nervous systems, that constant stimulation can become exhausting over time. That's why home often becomes more than just a place to rest. It becomes a psychological reset zone, a space where the brain can finally shift out of survival mode, slow its processing, and return to a calmer, more balanced state. Up to this point, staying home might sound like nothing more than a way to recover energy. But psychology reveals a surprising twist. Solitude isn't just restful, it can also be incredibly productive for the mind. Research has shown that people who are comfortable spending time alone often develop certain cognitive strengths. They tend to show higher levels of creativity, stronger introspection, deeper thinking, and better problem-solving abilities. Why does that happen? Because creativity and reflection require mental space. When the brain is constantly reacting to conversations, notifications, and social expectations, it rarely has time to wander. But in quiet environments, the mind can finally explore ideas without interruption. This is often where original thoughts appear. Many writers, scientists, and artists have described the same pattern. Their best ideas rarely arrive in crowded rooms or loud environments. Instead, those ideas appear in quiet moments, during a walk alone, late at night, or while sitting peacefully with their thoughts. Solitude gives the brain time to connect ideas that normally remain scattered during busy days. In other words, staying home doesn't necessarily mean doing less. Sometimes it means thinking more deeply. And for people who truly enjoy solitude, those quiet hours are not empty at all. They're often the moments when the mind is most active, creative, and capable of discovering something new. But there is another side to this conversation that psychology takes very seriously. Not every person who stays home does it because it brings peace. Sometimes staying home can slowly turn into something else: avoidance. For some people, the outside world feels heavy rather than stimulating. Social anxiety can make simple interactions feel stressful. Trauma can make unfamiliar environments feel unsafe. Depression can quietly drain the motivation to leave the house at all. And for many people, the fear of rejection or judgment can make social situations feel emotionally risky. In these cases, home can become both a refuge and a trap. At first, it feels safe. The familiar environment protects you from uncomfortable situations. But over time, the world outside may start to feel more distant, more difficult, and more intimidating. That's why psychologists often make an important distinction when talking about solitude. There is a difference between peace and avoidance. Peace is when staying home restores your energy, helps you think clearly, and leaves you feeling calm. Avoidance is when staying home happens because leaving feels overwhelming, so the real question becomes a personal one. Do you stay home because it gives you energy, or because stepping outside feels like too much to handle? For people who truly enjoy staying home, life often unfolds in quieter ways. Their happiness rarely comes from loud events or crowded places, but from small moments that many others barely notice. A simple morning coffee ritual, the familiar comfort of a favorite chair, or the soft light that fills a room at sunset can hold surprising meaning. These small rituals create a sense of rhythm and calm. They slow life down just enough for the mind to breathe. Instead of rushing from one event to another, people who enjoy staying home often move through their days with more awareness of their surroundings and their thoughts. Comfort spaces also play an important role. A cozy corner, a desk for writing, or a quiet room for reading can become places where the mind settles and creativity begins to grow. Personal hobbies often thrive in these environments. Reading, drawing, cooking, learning new skills, or simply reflecting on the day allows the mind to deepen its understanding of itself and the world. Over time, these slow moments build something powerful, a rich internal life where meaning, curiosity, and quiet satisfaction naturally appear. So maybe the person who prefers staying home isn't antisocial at all. Maybe they simply experience life differently. In a world that constantly rewards noise, speed, and endless activity, some people naturally move in the opposite direction. They choose quiet over chaos, depth over distraction, and reflection over constant stimulation. And that doesn't make them boring. It might simply mean their inner world is rich enough that they don't need the outside world entertaining them all the time. So now I'm curious about you. Do you feel recharged when you're around people, or do you regain your energy when you're alone? Tell me in the comments which type you are. And if this video helped you understand your own mind a little better, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Because in the next video, we're going to explore a personality type that may be even more misunderstood than introverts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you there.